Thank you so much for having me. So I think like a few of us tonight, this is the first time I've probably spoken out loud, other than to my therapist, about what I've been through. Thank you to those who have read my chapter in volume number 1. If you haven't, please pick it up and read it. Not just mine, but everybody's. The name of my chapter is Letting Go of Emily. And the first question a lot of people ask me is, who is Emily? So Emily was somebody who I used to call my best friend. She was somebody that I looked up to. We call it an all eggs in one basket. She was my everything. She made me feel really special and loved in some of the darkest times of my life. And she was the person I looked up to, I wanted to be like. Unfortunately, as time went on, Emily became nasty. She became controlling, and she became very, very, very manipulative. The difference between Emily and some of the other friendships I've had is that Emily actually wasn't a human being and she wasn't real. Emily was actually my eating disorder. And Emily and I met in the summer of 2006. So in 2006, in December, 6 days before Christmas, I finally had my 18th birthday. I was an athlete. I played really high level netball and volleyball. I was training probably 5-6 times a week and playing multiple games. And health and fitness was something that I knew I loved, what I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. And Emily told me that if I controlled my health and fitness, everything would be okay. Unfortunately for me, 18-year-old Rhiannon didn't understand health and fitness. It was back in the day where we didn't have a lot of social media. We were reading magazines, we were reading papers. Yeah, we had Big Brother, that was probably all that was on TV at the time. And the readings that I did and the readings Emily encouraged me to read were, the less you eat, the healthier you are because you'll be skinny. The more you exercise, the fitter you'll be. And everyone will love you for that because you're an athlete, Rhi, and it's all about how good you are on the sporting field. You don't want to be on that bench. And that's how I was brought up. Initially, Emily was good for me. She made me feel safe when I felt like that safety had been taken away from me. She made me feel like I had a sense of control over my life. I focused on going to uni, exercising. I remember sitting in my uni classes, writing down the side of my book what I'd eaten. I'd get my calorie counter out and I'd add it up and I'd make sure I was at my goal. And if I hit those goals, Emily was happy. She'd celebrate me. And I'd be like, yeah, we're a team. This is great. I'm making you feel really happy and I'm happy because that's what I want to feel. Yeah, I want to feel loved. I want to feel needed. I want to feel like I've got that sense of belonging and that connection. And that's what Emily gave me. And I isolated myself from the rest of the world. It got to a point where I actually could not play sport anymore. I was unwell. I'd faint at training. I'd faint in the middle of class. My performance would go down. My concentration wasn't there. I couldn't make the decisions that I used to make. I remember fainting in a Les Mills class one time. That was horrific to remember, that happening, and my friend who was the instructor having to stop the class and, get me some help. I actually finally worked up the courage to tell my mum what had happened to me. And for you guys that are parents in the room, to hear that happening to your child, then that look on my mum's face, I'll never forget it. And the first thing she did was burst into tears and say, what have I done to make you feel like you couldn't trust me enough to tell me what had happened? I had a diagnosis eventually of anorexia nervosa and I had to go on a refeeding program. I had to put weight on and I still wouldn't talk about it because I wasn't ready to let go of her, because that was still what gave me that sense of safety and control. Because 20-year-old Rhiannon at that particular time, she wanted to feel love. She wanted to feel safe and she wanted to feel connected to the people around her. And Emily said, if you listen to me, I will give you all those things. You just have to trust the process. And I knew that if I started speaking about her, they would take Emily away from me. And then what would I have? I was so scared that it was going to make that hole in my chest and in my heart and soul even bigger and even deeper. So Emily and I continued, and we continued down this path right up until 2020, which really wasn't that long ago. And I know I've met a few of you here from Melbourne. Yeah, a couple of you. Second harshest lockdown in the world. We were locked in our houses for 2 years, and I'm a secondary school teacher, so I taught online. It became Groundhog Day. Every day we get up, I'd do my workout, I'd go online and teach, I'd walk my dog in there somewhere, I'd eat, I'd sleep, repeat. Consistently. We had a curfew, we couldn't go outside, all the things I loved, all the sport that I loved, going to the gym that I loved, I couldn't do that anymore. And all of a sudden, I had to deal with what was happening in front of me. Now, just before lockdown happened, I actually played a volleyball tournament. And this was a 3-day volleyball tournament over the Labor Day long weekend. And I look back at it now and I actually played a ripper of a game. But at that time, I could not see that. Anyone here played volleyball? It is a terrible sport for perfectionists because it is a game of errors. It is hard. They say it's the second hardest sport in the world, tennis being the first. And that's because you're allowed to speak to the coaches. Apparently, I learned that at the Aussie Open this year, but you're usually on your own. It's the second hardest sport in the world. And if you have the perfectionism trait in there, it is such a hard sport to play because only probably 15-20% of the time does that ball perfectly come off your hands or your arms. The rest is a fluke. Yeah, and I decided I played this terrible game. And I actually said to my team, I'm not eating. I'd not deserve that because for me, eating was a reward. And a really close friend of mine, and we're still really close today, actually pulled me aside and said, Rhi, you're not playing the next game unless you have lunch. And I was torn. I'd never somebody actually say that to me before. I ate. And she said, I'm really proud of you. I'm glad you ate. But you're still not going on the court. Because I'm scared about what you're going to do if you don't play a perfect game. That game doesn't exist. So I went home, lockdown occurred, and I decided I needed to do something about it. And my psychologist of 10 years said, I'll help you, but I'm not an eating disorder specialist, so now you're going to have to see someone else. I found a new dietitian, and dietitians scared me because that meant meal plan and weight gain. And my process from then on was having to trust these new therapists in my life. I still went through hospital admissions. There was self-harm, there was suicide attempts. What it took for me to overcome Emily, it was the hardest thing I've ever done. I'd rather run marathons, and I've never run a marathon in my life. It's not on my to-do list. I don't like running long distance, but I feel like that would be easier. Unfortunately, eating disorders are demonic. They run rampant. They are the number one killer of mental illness because it is one of the mental illnesses that you want to keep and you don't want it to be taken away from you. And my recovery has been about learning to manage Emily. Just like a type 1 diabetic, you can't, inject yourself with insulin once. Yeah, and you're cured, healed. Yeah, it's a lifelong commitment. Thank you so much for coming. And if you do have your own Emily in the room, and that may not be an eating disorder, that may be that's something telling you you're not good enough, your voice has power. And if you're not ready to share your story yet, one day you will. And I really feel that speaking up and talking about these things, that's how we peel back those layers of shame.
To learn more about our work, visit our official website and discover how one man, Glenn Marsden, redefined imperfection and built a global movement.